In this video, I am going to show you how you can add labels to your planner tasks when you create them in Power Apps. To display and add labels to your tasks, you need a gallery with a checkbox inside. Click on your screen, select the onVisible property and add a with function. I will use the scope of the with function to get the names of my labels. To do that, I use the planner getPlanDetails function. If you look at the planner connector, you will see that there are 25 different categories. Each of them represents a label and the description will give me the label name and strings. In the formula of my with function, I will create a collection. For the first record, I will set the ID to 1. The fill color will be pink, but how do I know which label has which color? If we take a look at the planner connectors again and go ahead to the create task function, we can see 25 categories with 25 different colors, which are our labels. I will also use two different font colors, white and black. Since you cannot see a black font on top of a dark label, I will use the white font for them. Lastly, I will add the description, so the label names, which I get from the scope of my with function. I will repeat this step once again. This has to be done for all 25 categories. Now I add the My Get Labels collection to the items property of my labels gallery. I select the checkbox and its text property and set it to this item.description. I set the fill color to this item.fillColor and the color to this item.fontColor. Now you can see two labels with two different descriptions, fill colors and font colors. I will simply paste the code for the other categories to keep the video short. As you can see, I have the ID in each record. I have 25 different fill colors. The font color is white for dark labels and black. The descriptions are from category 1 to category 25, which I get from the scope of my with function. There is one last step you should be aware of when you display labels. Out of the 25 labels, the color of 3 are not natively built in Power Apps. You have to get the RGBA codes for these colors. Now, when I reload my screen to activate the on display, I will see all 25 labels of the selected plan. Each planner plan has its own description or label names. To load the labels of another plan, I simply copy my with function and insert it to the onChange property of my plan dropdown. Now I can switch between the labels of different plans. Note how there are no label descriptions when I select my business plan. If you create a new plan in Planner, you have to create a task in that plan, add labels to that task, and change the label's description within the Planner app for a single time to show the label descriptions in Power Apps. When I select the pink label and remove one letter from its name, it will show up in Power Apps. I will change the name back to pink and add 3 more labels. When I reselect my plan, notice how pink is being shown to me. However, the other 3 are not, because as I said, you have to change the name of the labels at least once to show them in Power Apps. You only have to do it when you create a new plan in Planner. After I change the names of the labels, you will see them in Power Apps as well. Now I can display my labels, but I also need to be able to add labels when creating a task. To do that, I need a second collection where I can set my labels to true or false. I select my screen's onVisible property and move down. I add a semicolon and clear collect a new collection. The previous one was get labels since we only displayed its data. We will call this new collection assign labels. This collection has to contain a table with all categories inside from 1 to 25. All categories should have a Boolean value, therefore set them to false by default. If we look at the Planner connector under Create Task, then we see that there are 25 different categories and each of them has to have a Boolean value. In an usual table, you would have 2 columns, a column to display the item's name or title, and a column to display the item's Boolean value, either true or false. However, you cannot use that for the Planner connector. You need a record with 25 fields, one field for each category, and they should be set to true or false. I will now copy my new collection and add it to the onChange property of my plan dropdown. So all labels that may be true are set to false when I switch between plans. To set the labels to true or false, I select my checkbox in the labels gallery and its onCheck property. I will use a switch function together with a patch function to set the labels of my assign labels collection to true, according to the selected ID of the get labels collection, which might look complicated, but I basically use one collection to display data while using the other to update data. Again, this will be a very long code. To keep it short, I will paste it. So if I select the checkbox with the ID 1 from my Get Labels collection, then category 1 from my Assign Labels collection becomes true. If I select the ID 2, then category 2 becomes true, and so on. I will copy that entire switch function and paste it in the onUncheck property of my checkbox. Then I select the true boolean and replace all of it with false. Now, this will be a functioning checkbox where I can remove labels again if I misclick or change my mind. When I check my pink label, you can see in my Assign Labels collection that category 1 is true, and when I uncheck it, category 1 becomes false again. When I check my label again and switch between plans, it becomes unchecked and false automatically, as it should be. Finally, we have to edit our Save button to create tasks with labels. If you don't know how to create basic planner tasks in Power Apps yet, you can find the tutorial I made in the info box. Since my Assign Labels collection only has one record, I used the first function to get my first and only record with 25 categories. I also add a variable which I will use to reset my checkbox in the labels gallery. Lastly, I set all label categories to false after I have created a task. Finally, I can create a planner task in Power Apps and add labels to it. I also add a checklist item to it. If you don't know how to add checklist items, you can watch the tutorial I made in the info box. As you can see in the Planner app, the task is created with all the labels I have selected. If I want to add a new task, even in another plan, I can simply switch to my other plan and select New Labels. I can even select labels without any description. As you can see, they are being shown in the Planner app. However, as I told you before, to make the description visible, I have to change it first. I will end this tutorial by adding a task with all 25 labels. If you want to see more Power Apps tutorials, don't forget to subscribe and like the video.